Hello, everybody, and welcome to Zero Limits Living. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale, and every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. This week is no different. I want to begin by saying thank you because this show is young, new, and already so popular, it's being seen or heard on over 1,000 platforms, which is amazing to me. And you can see or hear it on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Spotify, and just about every place you can name. I also put up a website, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. You can go there and see all the episodes. I'll post them so they're all in one place. Also, before we begin, sometimes people ask me if I do coaching. I do have a coaching program. Go to miraclescoaching.com, and you can learn all about it. And that's my 5-second advertisement. The rest of this is all for you. Now, my guest today is a specialist in the law of attraction and a specialist on the subject of desire. And this is really important because you've probably wrestled with desire. Desire covers everything from what do you want? Do you know what you want? And if you don't know what you want, how do you find out? And if you do find out what you want, how do you start to attract it? How do you start to fulfill that desire? And what about the troubling issues about dealing with negativity around desire? Is desire good? Is desire bad? Is what you're desiring good for you? Is it good for the world? These are big questions, and these are the kind of things we're going to be jumping into. What I like to do is fly by the seat of my pants, go into a deep dive into the subject, and surprise my guest with my questions. So that's what we're going to do. She doesn't know what I'm going to ask, and neither do you. And in some ways, neither do I. So first of all, who is my guest? I'm going to read her bio. Christy Whitman is a New York Times bestselling author of The Desire Factor. Go get her book. The Desire Factor is a masterpiece. It's one of the best books I have ever read. I have fully endorsed it, helped her make it a New York Times bestseller. I'm just telling you, right after the show, go get The Desire Factor. So Christy Whitman's the author of The Desire Factor. She's a transformational leader. She's appeared on the Today Show, well done, The Morning Show, well done, TEDx, and the Hallmark Channel. And her work has been featured in numerous publications and magazines. Christy teaches the law of attraction, energy mastery, personal development classes, meditations, private sessions to help clients feel more aligned with the divine design of well-being, abundance, and success. Now, she currently lives in sunny Arizona with her husband and 2 boys, and her website's at ChristyWhitman.com. But before you go to her website, before you go get her book, say hi to her. Christy, how are you?
I'm so happy to be with you, Dr. Joe. You're such a kindred spirit to mine, and I'm just so grateful for you. So
I miss
thank you
you.
for
I haven't
having
seen
me.
you. I haven't seen you, I think, in 3 or 4 years at the TLC,
Yes,
one of
yeah,
our
it's
meetings there.
it's been a while, so we'll have to connect in a different way. So I'm
Right.
I'm
Well,
always
what have you been up
appreciative.
to? What are you doing today besides this?
Oh, well, I have my son who turned into a teenager. So we have a lot. I still have 2 young kids. I have a
Right.
13-year-old and 11-year-old. So, but I'm actually traveling more, doing a lot more opening of channeling the council and going in different places. I had my first public appearance where I channeled in Tucson a couple of weeks ago. So it's fun. It's getting the message of the council out there in the world, and so there's a lot going on.
Well,
So
I was even going to be hesitant to ask you about the council because we didn't talk beforehand to find out if that's okay. But you brought it up. So before we go there, though, these people that are listening or watching don't know you firsthand. Maybe they do because they've read your book or seen you somewhere. But how did you get started in self-help, personal development, transformation, law of attraction? What brought you to that road?
So I was living in Chicago. I had moved there after college, and I basically, long story short, I got the checklist of all the things that I thought was going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I was about 26 years old, excuse me, 26 years old, and I was engaged to be married. I had money in the bank. I had a thriving career. I had health in my body. I mean, I had a degree.
Hmm.
Excuse me. And I didn't feel fulfilled. And I thought,
Hmm.
this is what it's about? So I started asking bigger questions. And I love that how you even started the show today is asking those big type of questions, because I started asking the questions of, okay, if I've done it all at a young age and these are the things that are supposed to make me happy, I mean, they're cool. I'm grateful for them. What's next? What is this about?
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't know, but that question in that moment led me on breaking the engagement, finding someone in California that I dated to happen to go move to Northern California, where I got my hair cut by a woman that had, I didn't have this language back then, but she had an energy. It was like she bubbled. It was like champagne joy,
Yes.
right? And I was like, what do you do? And she says, I meditate. And that was the first time in my life. Now I had heard about meditation, maybe, in passing somewhere, but meditation, and we're talking, this is like 28 years ago, right? And
Hmm.
meditation to me was some guru guy sitting with long hair in a white robe on a mountaintop somewhere in a yogi position. That's who meditated. So this girl, this totally hip girl in San Ramon, California, has a dog, has a boyfriend, she's dressed. You meditate? What does that do for you? So we had a really in-depth, long conversation. Meanwhile, I made an appointment for her meditation teacher. And the minute I walked into Melanie's house, it was so different than I'd ever experienced, because she had angel statues and incense and candles and invited me to sit on the floor with her. And this is not what I had grown up with. I was raised, Catholic and very, very, traditional and Italian American, so
Mm.
so this was very Eastern way. I was like, what? I never had been introduced to this. So she sits me down and she looks deep into my soul. And I don't think I would ever at this point in my life had anybody look that deeply at me. And she said, you create your own reality.
Mm.
And I just went like something, like a peacock opening up the feathers, something just expanded in me. And I say, yes. I was like, yes, that's true. It was such a spiritual truth to me. It was like a cracking, surface of like, and then I went, how? How? And she said, with your thoughts. She started with the part of consciousness, it's not just thoughts, it's emotions,
Mm.
it's what we say, it's what we believe, the actions that we take, it's all that. She started with thoughts, and she said, you're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. And that was a moment where it's like, the way I think. I mean, that was that moment in time where I had even a conversation that I wasn't my own thoughts. I wasn't the
Mm.
thought that told me I'm never going to be enough, or that I'm not smart enough, or that I'm not whatever enough. Those I'm not good enough, right? I'm not important enough. I don't matter. Whatever those thoughts were, those aren't real. Well, if those thoughts aren't real, who's saying them and how do I get them out of my head? Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that became the next big question. It was like, well, if I'm not that thought, who's thinking that thought? And I want to know, I want to talk to that guy, right? I want to meet that person. I want to connect with her. And that's what meditation did for me. And so,
Mm.
but the beauty of it is what Melanie said to me that day made me so curious. It was like she gave me a piece of chocolate. I had never had a piece of chocolate before, and I'm like, I want more. That's for those of you that like chocolate. Or it could have been an apple, and I'm like, oh, I want an apple. I wanted more of it, and so I started studying and reading, and I just, if there was a workshop, I was there. And this is before the internet. This is before there was any online anything, as you will know, Joe.
Mhm.
You know, so I would go to the workshops where people would travel and, do their workshops in a church or a spiritual bookstore. And the woo-woo books were not very easy to find back in the day, but they always fell. The perfect one, what I needed next always fell in my lap. And so I started learning and just becoming masterful of understanding what is the difference between a lack mentality and an abundance mentality.
Mhm.
And that was like, wow. I mean, that awareness in and of itself, and that lack always feels bad, abundance always feels good. Okay. So now I have a gauge of what thoughts am I thinking,
Mm.
right? So it's just this evolvement. And one night I happened to be meditating and I saw the cover of my book and it said Perfect Pictures by Christy Whitman. And that's pretty, but I've never written a book, and went to sleep. And then this is where the journey for me on my spiritual teaching journey, if you will, because I'd been on a conscious spiritual journey for about 5 years. I got woken up at 1:05 in the morning with this voice that was not my own voice, that was giving me the guidance and giving me the answers to the questions that I had. And
Mm.
so I got up and I was writing it down and, oh my gosh, I've been on these perfect pictures. And if I'm looking at what's wrong and bad and I'm focused on what needs to be fixed, my focus is on that. And then I continue to track that in my experience. Oh my God. I mean, that was like understanding law of attraction, because I had already attracted a husband and
Mhm.
a perfect little house and a body and money in the bank and all of these things. Right. And then I went, I don't feel satisfied in my career. I was a pharmaceutical rep at the time, made great money, all that, but
Mm.
I didn't feel that passion, that connection, that purpose. So I
Mhm.
started thinking, well, what do I know about lack? If I vibrate in what I don't want or what I don't have, the polar opposite of that is true in this abundant universe. And so I could just feel the connection to the energy of purpose and passion, because ultimately that's what I wanted to feel. So I started to feel that, and that's when the book, that night, 1:05 in the morning, I got up, started writing, automatic writing for several hours, went back to sleep, totally forgot about it. It was almost as if I was sleepwalking, but then remembered. And for 7 nights in a row that happened. And so I thought, okay, I don't know what this I'm supposed to do with this. And then thought of an author, Terry Cole Whitaker. She had just come to had visited the Reading Church of Religious Science. And I thought, I'm going to email her. How do you get a book published? Because I think I'm writing a book. And she said, go online and find a literary agent. And I'm so new. I was so literal. I'm a literary agent. The first guy that pops up, he's a publisher slash literary agent. I didn't even know the difference and why I would need one. And so I said yes. And I contacted him and he said, send me your manuscript. I'm like, well, okay, let me type it up and type up the notes that I have. I didn't edit it or anything. I sent it over to him and he goes, okay. So next thing I know, I'm like, I'm getting a book published. And like, is this supposed to I mean, and,
Wow.
and then I got a book published. And then my friends and family who were not the target market for this book, by the way, they all thought, okay, she always talks about energy and she always talks about being positive, but she has lost like she's off her rocker. And so I'm like, okay, they're just, where is my audience? So I started speaking in spiritual bookstores and churches. And at one particular workshop I was doing, I was guiding people through the meditations and getting them out. I was doing energy work back then. And I had people ask me, are you a coach? Can you coach me? Now, this is again 20 something year. It's like there was no coaching
Right.
industry like there is now. I know you
Right.
know that, right?
Mhm.
And so I said, yeah, I'll get on the phone with you and help you out. And people started seeing results because their focus is like there's so many different methods and processes, but the bottom line is the focus got on what they wanted, what they desired. There was releasing the resistance of why they felt they couldn't desire it. So it's that is literally what I started doing years ago, and it's evolved. And as you know, I certified over 3,000 law of attraction coaches. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been an evolvement for years, but yeah. So
That is an amazing story. I did not know all of this. I'm so glad I asked, and you told it so well. First of
oh,
all, I
thank you.
apologize. I did not know about your first book. Is that still around? Is it called Perfect Pictures?
Perfect pictures. Yes. Yeah. You could buy it on Amazon.
Really? And what is the nature of Perfect Pictures?
Just if we are looking at something, you could look at anything, right? And look at good qualities or bad qualities. And whatever you focus on, you're going to see more of, whether it's a relationship or money or whatever it may be. And when we look at the things that we don't like about a person or that annoy us or nod us or whatever it may be about anything, about our jobs, and
Mm.
if this would just be different, then I'll be happy, that old story,
Yeah.
that's coming from perfect pictures because we have this image in our minds of what it should look like. And we're not in a space of accepting what is in
Hmm.
order to morph it or change it. We're resisting it. So when we're
Mm.
having these images of, it's surrendering, it's flowing with it. It may not be exactly how you thought it would be, but look at this, it could be so much better. And
Mm.
it's being that very rigid black and white, if it's not this, it's got to, if you're not doing this, then I can't be happy. If you would change, I would be happy, is kind of the premise of perfect pictures, which is everything that we teach, Joe. I mean,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
looking at other things outside and saying, you need to, hey, universe, you all change and then I'll be happy. And then the universe is like,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't work like that. You be
Wow.
happy and then everything around you changes.
Okay, but my duty here is to help the people that are watching or listening to the program to further their lives, to live a zero limits life. Zero limits living is the name of the show. So, what I want to do is be as helpful as I can. And I want to ask your help to do this. If somebody is sitting right now watching and they're going, well, I'm unhappy with my relationship, or I'm unhappy with my job, or I'm unhappy with my health, or I'm unhappy with my fill in the blank. And
Right.
so their image right now is they're focused on the negative, they're focused on the limitation, they're focused on what's not working. What would be your advice? What do we do to pivot in this
Okay.
moment?
So take out a piece of paper and a pen. Here's the coach in me. Take a
All
piece
right,
of
let's
paper,
do it.
paper, piece of paper and a
Yeah.
pen. And right at the top, what it is that you want changed, whether it's the relationship, my ideal relationship. If you
Okay.
want a different relationship with money, my ideal relationship with money,
Hmm.
right? And then on the left side, like you're going to write out a shopping list, write out all of the feelings and the thoughts and the things that you dislike about the scenario or the situation or the contrast that you're in right now. You
Mhm.
get to be as negative as you want. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we can't be negative. Well, if you're going to use it as a pivot, be negative because guess what? All of that vibration is still stuck inside of you. You might as well get it out, have awareness of it, and then you can pivot from it. So
Okay.
write all that stuff down. I don't like being short in money. I don't like feeling stressed every month. I don't like that. I don't like feeling, belittled or whatever it may be in your relationship. And then ask yourself, what is it that I do want? So if it's I don't want to be belittled, scratch it out and put I want to be respected.
Hmm.
And just feel the focus of that shift of that focus. It expands things because now you're shifting what has already been created and you're already wrestling with and frustrated with. It's already been created. You don't want to keep putting your life force energy towards it. And
Hmm.
that's what we do when we resist it. We want to be aware of it and go, you know what? All right, the opposite of that, because that's clearly what I don't want. The opposite of that is what I do want, and that's this. I want to have an overflow of money each month. I want to be able to have more vacation time and time to enjoy my family. I want to be able to have my thriving business go to the next level, whatever the desire may be. I want to lose
Mhm.
20 pounds. I want to, that's the thing of the desire factor, which you did, Joe,
Yes.
you did endorse, and I appreciated what you said on the show. It's a step by step how to create your desires into reality, but you've got to get out of the focus. No, don't ignore it. Don't stuff your head. Use the information because this you were the one that drew it to you and created it, good, bad, or indifferent, and it's there to inform you to
Hmm.
say, you know what, I thought I would like this, I don't, or you know what, wasn't even aware, but I created this, I manifested this, and it's something I do not like. So what's the opposite of that? And on the sheet, just write down, scratch it out, each and every point. What would you want? And then take all of those things of what you do want and put it on a piece of paper that says, this is my ideal relationship. I am
Mm.
respected. I am loved. I feel good when I see this person. I feel expanded. I feel soul connected. I love laughing. We have so much in common. We love watching movies together. We love horseback riding. We love, whatever it may be. I love
Mhm.
what it feels like to have this now and to feel that feeling of having it now. What would it feel like? Because now you're not energetically focused on what you don't want. All of your attention, your mind, your emotions, your body, your energy field is focused on what you do want.
Mm. This is beautiful. So, the very first step is to go ahead and list your complaints, so to speak, so that you are being aware of them and kind of dumping them. The
Mhm.
second step is to take each one of them and transform it into its opposite, what you actually do want. And then what I hear you saying is a kind of a third step. This is how my mind works. I'm trying to put it into step by step format.
I love it.
Is to list everything that you do want and being thorough, being vivid, and being emotional, feeling it as you're listing it. Is this all correct?
Absolutely. You could write it down on a script, and every morning when you wake up, you can read it with feeling and conviction as if it's a script that you're scripting for your life. And you want to read it out loud. You want to make sure that you feel it. That's
Hmm.
another thing you can even do with that and take it further.
And what about action? I did hear you say when we were talking earlier and you were learning about all the different things, it's not just thinking, there is feeling, there is doing. And you've no doubt run across this. There's a lot of people who go into wishful thinking and magical thinking and don't actually want to do anything. What is your stance on how do you take action, especially if you've made your list and you're feeling it, and you're looking at it every morning, and then you go, but how's this going to happen?
Well, that's the thing is that the desire factor shares those 7 steps. And the very last step and essential step is action. But there's a lot
Mm.
of stuff that gets set up before someone takes action. I used to be a go take action and then, run faster than the energy, right? It's like you
That's
know what I'm
good.
saying?
Right.
I'm like, oh, I might want to let the energy catch up with me of this thing. Now it's like we can bring the energy in, think about what we want, feel what we want. Any place within
Mm.
ourselves that feels split about the desire, surrender that. And then when you're surrendering, even the thought of, well, I don't know what to do, surrender that thought because you surrender it to the understanding that you're the physical to the non-physical. There's a co-creative relationship going on. It's not just
Yeah.
Joe sitting out there saying,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I like to be impactful to millions of people and have people shift their consciousness." And then it just Joe's forcing and making that happen. There's a life force that agrees with that purpose for you. And for each person, that whatever they're desiring, that desire is matched up with that perfect union of the unique consciousness that is you that moves through you. And so we get to just hook up to that and go for the ride instead of trying to force it or try to go ahead of it like I used to do. Right.
Oh,
And
you're
yeah.
good. I love how you are articulating this. It raises
Thank
the
you.
question, though, what are we hooking up to? What are we hooking up to? What is that? I don't want to use my words because I want to find out what words you used to make sense to people when they're sitting there going, well, I'm going to hook up to this. What are we hooking up to?
Well, I have lots of words for it. Divine, treasure chest, hook up to the treasure chest. Everybody's got their own treasure chest. You could call it energy. It's energy, it's frequency, it's vibration, it's love. It's always that word. Now,
Mm,
Catholic people, because I used to God,
right.
because that just shifts the perspective. Ooh, and I'm not saying all Catholics, but what I learned while growing up is I got the perception that there was someone judging me on a cloud, and I was going to be condemned. I'm either going to go to a place called heaven because I was a good girl, or I was going to go to hell. And somewhere around my 12th, 13th birthday, I thought, the things in hell and the things like that are supposed to be bad girl stuff, that looks like fun. So I'm going to go do that. And I figure if I'm going to go to hell, let's really go to hell. Right. So
Let's
now
go have a party. Right.
right. Let's have fun doing it. But along my way, I realized that God doesn't exist and that all the things that whether not ever intentionally hurting or harming someone, but all of the times when I did, I get to be forgiven of that. I get to have
Mm,
compassion for myself and let myself off the hook. And I,
mm,
I get to hook up to the energy. And this is when I started channeling the council. The biggest blessing I got, and I just told my story. I've been doing this work on myself and I'm committed to this work, for publicly, impactfully helping people with shift their lives, but I live this. And so for me, when I started channeling the council fully, because I've been channeling them for a while, but fully in 2018, the first thing I got is how infinitely loved I am. Like
Mm.
there's just
Mm.
absolutely no judgment at all. And all of those things that I could write a book on, well, but I won't. But all those things I could write a book on, I'm not judged. There's nobody tallying anything. And the karma gets wiped away when you shift the vibration. It's like karmically, you literally change the momentum. Sometimes it might hit you on the way, but you're changing the vibration and you create something totally different. and
Mm.
and that's the beauty of it. And so what I am here is that feeling that I got, that wow, I'm all right here. I don't have to hide myself, I don't have to prove myself. I'm just get to be myself with that life force that's like universally and individually me, with the unique expression of me. And each one of us has that, every single one of us, but we have to, like you said, hook up to it. So
Yeah.
it's energy. Sometimes I just want to feel joy. I just want to feel joy, and I'm bringing in that energy. Or sometimes I might feel tired and I just want to feel that vitality energy. It's like you're literally hooking up in the matrix, right? Okay, I'm plugging into the passion energy, or I'm passionate in the love or success. Got a important business or something that you're going to be doing. Hook up to that and beginning in the morning, and just fill yourself up with that energy of success, and let that just float you all day long.
So many things I want to ask you. My goodness, this is good. You are fantastic. I think what we have to do is look at the word desire for a minute. I mean, that's the whole subject of your one book, The Desire Factor, which is a thorough masterpiece of a book. So again, everybody go read it. But for those that are with us right now, there's a lot of connotations around desire. Some people think desire is bad. Some of them look at a so-called quote from Buddha about the cause of suffering is desire. Then there's desire for things like money, but then we wrestle with the things we've heard, including money is the root of all evil. So we end up with this confusing ball of knots that keep us from going for anything, because we don't even know if desire is good, let alone going for the things we actually know we desire. How do we unravel this? Help us.
Yeah, I was teeter tottering with this today too. I was thinking about it, because how do you know if something is spiritually true? Like I went yes when Melanie said you create your own reality, right? We all have that wisdom within us. We all
Mhm.
have that spiritual wisdom. And I was laughing, and just to kind of say this, now there's a new thing to be feared out, that people should freak out about in the medical community. And
Mm.
I said, it's interesting. I think there's a people sitting where somewhere in an office, and they're like, you know what? The last thing that freaked everybody out, I'm not going to name it, but the last thing that freaked everybody out, literally changed society, made a big, huge splash, that kind of, the fear is over. So we need to stir up some more fear. So let's do this. Let's spin the wheel and we'll go. Oh, it landed on monkey. What can we put with monkey?
Mm.
Monkey. Oh, that will sounds really good. Let's make this up, because there are things out there that do make people sick. But if you focus on the sickness, and you focus on the fear of the sickness, and you focus on getting it, and God forbid dying, which all we do is really transition back into light. When you focus all that energy, all that worry, we attract that stuff to us. But when
Mm.
you make a decision to be in the health vibration, which is where the divine vibrates, energy vibrates, the universe vibrates, all that it's like the unending source vibrates,
Mm.
you can get whatever it is, and you're fine, because you know that your body and the cellular structure is breathing in that essence energy.
And what about when it comes to money? I grew up pretty much the same way you were describing it, with the Catholic and the God and the crime and punishment view of looking at things, and the Italian Americans. And I know I went through homelessness, I went through poverty, and a whole lot of that time I didn't want money, because unconsciously I thought money was evil. And so I pushed it away. And of course, I've made peace with that. But what about with the people who haven't made peace with that? What about with the people who are saying, I want to live the zero limits life that we're talking about? I want to hook up to the divine, to love, and I want to feel that, and I want to create my reality and all of that kind of stuff. But they're blocked by that, a belief like that. Where do
Do
they go?
this.
How do
Do
they erase it?
do this, because when I did this, it was such a huge awakening, because my money story was that I would make a lot of it and then I would blow it, and
Yeah.
I'd make a lot of it, and so I was on the have a lot of it and then go deep into debt and then
Yeah.
get a lot of it, and I was making a lot of money and having success, but it was this roller coaster of why can't I keep it? And so I wrote out on a piece of paper, and I recommend again, anybody write this, write mom, dad. And then if you did have, a pretty good upbringing that had influences, such in my case, and it could be your grandma, it could be somebody else. In mine, it was the church. So I have three different columns. And I look at in the relation with my mom, what did mom feel about money, or people that had money or people that didn't have money? What was the conversation and what was the energy all around that?
Hmm.
And I realized, okay, well, first of all, it comes from lack. She's always like, we don't have enough. Everybody else has it. So there's a belief. Everybody else has it. We don't. We're suffering. When
Hmm.
my dad gave her a beautiful living. And she went to she had belonged to tennis clubs and would go out eat for dinner, but it was always they always had more. So it was the energy of lack. And what I also noticed is that she really admired people that had money, right?
Hmm.
So there was this admiration. Well, when I got to the perspective of my dad would cut down people. So I repeatedly would hear conversations about a couple they went out for dinner with, maybe not that night, next morning. And my mom would be like, oh, they're so great. And they're so this. And hey, they're going on this trip. And did you see her ring and all the materialistic, material is great. I love rings. But that's when it becomes like, that's the purpose of your life. There's more depth. But that was that was the thing. She really admired. And then at the same token, I'd hear myself say, well, that guy was such a blah, 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 blah. And it would be judgment and judgment
Hmm.
and judgment. So I got imprinted without even knowing. So grateful I have awareness and I know this work by looking at, you can make it because you'll be admired for that, but don't make too much and don't have it, because then you're going to get judged.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was always doing really well and then getting myself into trouble and then doing really well so that I wouldn't keep it and I wouldn't be judged.
So you found out what the programming was from the early ages. How did you break free from it?
It's a decision, because here's the thing, we don't most of us don't realize this. At some point in our lives, like when I was a little kid, I maybe don't know exactly when, but you can imagine that there's like these energetic cords, and I literally did that. Mom's over here, dad's over here. Wait a minute, I have my own relationship with money. That was I am a current exhibit of a combination between their relationship with money. Pulling that out, like no more courting to that. It's like a realization that I now have my own free will and choice to decide, what do I want my relationship to be with money? What do I want to believe
Hmm.
about money? What do I
Hmm.
want my experience to be with money? Well, I
Hmm.
want to be abundant. I want to be all sufficient. I want to have more than I ever will need and my kids will ever need. I want to be able to travel freely and stay at the best kind of places. I want to appreciate the money because I can throw a huge party for my dad on his 90th birthday. And I want to be able to give generously to causes that mean a lot to me. And I want to appreciate every place I live and the car that I drive. And, you know, e- I want to have a good, positive, loving relationship and appreciative relationship with money, because that appreciation energy is going to give me more to appreciate.
I love it. I love it. I had done something similar when I realized that a lot of the things my father taught me when I was growing up were actually very limiting. One of my favorite stories was he told us, me and my brothers and sister, that if you want to double your money, what you do is you fold it over and put it back in your pocket. And I laughed just like that. It's like, oh, that's so charming. And it sounds so wise. Plus, you still got your money. And it sounds like, oh, my dad's so wise. It wasn't until I'm struggling and broke and in
Mm,
homeless and poverty. And I started doing the inner work that we're talking about, that I realized, wait a minute, not only does that not give me any abundance, but I didn't double my money at all. I still got the same amount of money and I'm stuck broke. And it came from his depression era. He was born in 1925. The depression in America was 1929. He was imprinted
yes.
with lack and tried to
Yes.
pass it on. And for the most part, he did succeed for the longest time, but I broke free. So, what I'm hearing is that you are suggesting, advising, encouraging people to look at their upbringing, look where they may have downloaded innocently, unconsciously from parents, family, friends, limitations around money. And then once
Yes.
you have that awareness, you can go, I'd like to change that now. And
Awareness is everything, right? If you
awareness is everything.
have the awareness, then you do something about it, because it's the implementation of that awareness that then is the next key. So that's why, I'm so grateful that this day and age we have teachers like you and I that have processes and techniques and books, and there's material out there. There's no shortage of
Right.
material to help people literally live, no excuses, no limits, to just be what they are designed to be, and that
But
is
wait a
abundant.
minute, wait a minute. I totally agree with you. We're in an information flood. There is so much information, yet people don't do it, or people still come up with excuses, still come up with rationalizations, or come up with the blanket statements of that's all BS.
Mhm.
Or if they're polite, they might say, well, it works for you, it works for Christy, it doesn't work for me. What do we do with that? How do we get past the self-sabotage smoke screen that shows up acting like it's really keeping us safe and defending us, but it's really keeping us small and limiting us? All the information is there, the techniques are there, even the show's free. You don't get paid, I don't get paid. We're giving this to people to help people, and there will be people who go, yeah, work for you.
Well, you know what? I've always said this. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. And those people like myself that were hungry, that were really wanting something that was deep, that, that knew that the way I grew up and what I was learning, it wasn't working. So
Mm,
I was willing to do anything, not
mm,
try anything. I was willing to do anything. And so
mhm,
if it meant sitting quietly to listen to a thought so I could find that thought and then change that thought so I felt better, and then started creating something very differently very quickly, I might add. All of that, every time I shifted a thought, every time I shifted a vibration, every time I let a wave of emotion release out of me, I felt a release, and then I opened up. And as we open up and open up and open up, our lives begin to change. So, you know, how bad do you want your life to change? Because it's
mm,
the victim part of us that says we can't, or I've tried this before, or it works for them, it won't work for me. And being a victim is the lowest vibration in the universe.
mm,
And if that victim consciousness only creates more drama and struggle and
mm,
chaos and suffering, and it's a choice, it's an option. I live there a long time. I see a lot of the people that I care about that just don't can't move over there because they don't have the awareness of the consciousness. Like my dad, he's 90, he was born in 1932.
mm.
Depression, like you said,
Right.
imprinted. As many times I say, Dad, it's all good, or Dad, what are you excited about? He goes, his needle goes right back to the negative.
Right.
And and there's some people that just, they're going to choose because it's free will. They're going to choose because they don't know any different.
Mm.
But aren't you glad that you're involved in this conversation, because it says that there's my dad would not be listening to the show. He has no awareness to be listening. But if
Right.
you're listening to us right now, you do. And so all it takes is for you to take, it's all energy first and then action. But you got to get the action in there too.
Christy, you're amazing. I got chills as I keep talking to you. I also get to a point right about here in all of my interviews where I get frustrated and impatient because we're going to run out of time. And I want to make sure I ask you more. What about the council? Are you familiar? Are you okay talking about the council for a little bit?
Absolutely.
Can you
Yes,
can you tell me what that is, with the thought in mind that a lot of people may not know what channeling is? So
yes.
whatever phrase or terminology to explain it.
Absolutely. So what literally happens is my consciousness goes out with my permission and I invite a higher consciousness to come in. And so my eyes will be closed and I sound a bit British. It's just a different form. It's kind of like this. If I've never said it this way, this has never come to me before, and they're giving me this, so I'm just going to say this. It's like if I have a stream of consciousness that comes through me, and that's like the tentacle of the octopus, right? It's almost like the energy changed, and the presence that came into my physical body, right, is no longer Christy, it's the council. Did that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm tracking with you. Yes,
Okay.
excellent. Uh,
Yeah. So,
Can you? This is a daring question, but I'm going to be bold here. I've got you for a few minutes. Would you be willing to give an example? Could you channel the council right now with a message for us or for me?
oh yeah, it takes nothing at all. So just
Oh, thank you.
sit
Cool.
tight and I'll bring them in. So yeah.
All right.
We are here. Hello, dear one. And all of you that are here involved, all the souls gathering involved in this conversation. We are delighted to bring this energy and frequency to you through Christy. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
We are delighted. You are such a wonderful light worker and impact creator. And it is a pleasure to speak in this way with such a bright light.
Thank you. Can I ask a question or do you want to?
Absolutely.
What would be words of wisdom during our trying times of a pandemic, shootings, further viruses, an unstable appearing world?
We are happy you asked this question because it is the key to all of it, really.
Hmm.
In order for anything in your world to change, Krista was having a conversation with us today about this, about gun shooting. And she said, it really is just very simple. All they would have to do is keep the amendment as it is. But when they made the amendment, there was not firearms like they have now. Back in
Hmm.
the day, there was a single bullet shot, and you had the right to have that. But an AK-47 or anything that is used for military, why does anybody other than the military even have access to that? And on top of that, you think about when a kid goes to get their driver's license. Krista's son said to her yesterday, I'm 13 now, in 3 more years, I'm going to be driving. And then she did the old Catholic praying, and she said, yes, you will. But before he does, there is going to be at least 6 months of him having to practice and getting a permit and
Hmm.
having testing done. And can he park? And can he do the written? And maybe even driver's ed. There's a process to it. How come someone in their despair can go in and get something like this? Now, we said to her, listen, you can do all these things. And yes, those are good suggestions. Make it more where you have the right to bear arms, but what type of arms do you need to bear? And also, when you do go to get one, if you desire that, there's a process. And on top of that, though, you will still have the Nazi ones that are out of alignment that will find their way to these things
Hmm.
because you live in a world. Hear this, all of us. You live in a world that is full, exploding full of an abundance of a spectrum of experiences, all the way down to the most horrific things that ache at your heart.
Hmm.
Like what just happened? That's a heart acre. There's a not only in the United States, but in the whole world, there is a grieving of that, because it is showing what human beings are capable of doing. And people look at it and say that's pure evil. No, that is pure pain.
Mm,
Pain
mm,
creates that level of pain. So
mm,
the answer is, if any of you are in any pain, emotional, physical, mental, no, it is energy. It is stock energy. It is imprinted energy. The two of you were talking about changing your imprints. And when you change, both of you changed your money connection, both of you have a very different experience of money. It is the same principle. It is the same law. If you don't want to buy into all the vaccines and the poxes and the thises and the that's and the all of this stuff, focus on your well-being and be strong in that. Be dedicated, zip yourself up in that vibration. And yes, you take action by washing your hands and using hand sanitizer. And you probably are a little bit more wiser not to go up to someone that's snorting all over themselves. You have common sense, even though we know it's not so common for some people, but there is a wisdom. You
mm,
all have innate wisdom within you. And that wisdom, that breath, that life is well being. It is your divine design of success and abundance and love. There is never a shortage. So if all of you could get to a place where any kind of pain, if a thought that you say in your own head does a little bit of a ouch, that didn't feel good, shift that thought. Now, in the beginning, those little tiny shifts really don't happen. It's bigger shifts because you are literally peeling off all of the pain points, all of the imprints, all of the veils are going off to recognize, wait, no matter who I am and no matter what my past history has been, I am infinitely loved. And that infinite love is pouring through me now in this moment, regardless of whatever I've done or whatever I didn't do or whatever I felt or whatever I didn't feel. I am allowing compassion for myself, compassion that I'm a human being witnessing other people in that much pain, that they cause that much pain. I allow myself to have compassion. I am in compassion for myself because of the confusion of all these things that are reported about all these different things that are popping up. I give myself compassion because the compassion energy is neutral. It
mm.
neutralizes you to the judgments and the lower level energy. Neutralize yourself with compassion, and then know the very essence of you, the very nature of you is pure positive energy.
Thank you.
Indeed, dear. You want to change your realities, whether it's with money, your relationships, with what's happening in the world. It is starting with yourself, and it is letting yourself be the light that you are, letting your consciousness be in alignment and know that you are infinitely loved. Be well. So just allow yourselves to receive in a nice waterfall of light. I kind of get adjusted back into my body. And imagine that light is just dripping down your body and in your mind.
Christy, thank you. I can't thank you enough for bringing the council in. What the council was referring to was the shooting that just took place yesterday in Uvalde, Texas, which is actually right behind me. And what I heard the council advise us is that this was coming from pain. And if we do have any pain in ourselves, that we can love ourselves and that compassion will heal it and heal us. I also heard the recommendations about the permits and the gun control and application and training. And I thought all of that was wise.
Mm.
All of that was brilliant. So I'm a little shaken and stirred somehow here. Thank you for doing that. We only have a few minutes, and geez, I want to talk to you so much more. Do you have?
You have my number, friend, so you can call me anytime you want. We can have our own private conversation.
I'm going to do that. For the people watching Zero Limits Living here, do you have any last words, any takeaways, any thoughts, any stories, any something you want them to chew on? I mean, we've got a lot here, including from the council, but is there something else that you want to be sure, or a question I didn't ask you that you were hoping to talk about?
You know, what just is coming up for me right now is that we need to just attune to literally and get just so vivid in the vibration that we want to live in, and stick to that vibration. I was telling my friend, I said, you know what? I'm going to create a joy bug. And everybody is getting infected with it. And it's so infectious that you have to be really careful, Joe, because it makes you want to smile and laugh and giggle and dance. Right. And you'll want to play with puppies and rainbows and unicorns and follow birds, and you'll be skipping, and you'll be, and it's so contagious. I want to start that. So
I'm with you.
Right?
Let's spread the joy bug. It all started with you. Let's spread this out now over the Zero Limits Living TV show. I cannot thank you enough, Christy. You're full of love. You are a great big heart. You have so much wisdom, so much experience. I have to go get your other book, your first one. I didn't know about it. I feel bad that I didn't know. The Desire Factor is fantastic. Thank you.
I appreciate you so much.
Everybody, I've been talking to Christy Whitman. Go get her book, The Desire Factor. Go to her website, ChristyWhitman.com. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been watching Zero Limits Living. Over 1,000 platforms are now carrying this on video or audio, so you can watch it or listen to it virtually everywhere, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Spotify. Go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Watch everything there, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. I want to thank Lux Media Studios. I want to thank Candace Barr for making this possible. I want to thank Chris, who's running the cameras in the back. And again, I thank all of you for making the time to support this show, which is here to support you. Every week, I'm bringing you inspiration and information to help you live a zero limits life. Thank you. Respect me.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radicals, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.